This FedGov Today program is sponsored by stackArmor and Carasoft. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, an infusion of AI experts coming for Homeland Security, radical collaboration to drive AI success, and AI today and tomorrow at the Energy Department. Welcome to FedGov Today with Francis Rose. The Department of Homeland Security will bring more than 50 artificial intelligence experts into its new AI core this year. DHS says it will model the core after the U.S. Digital Service. Eric Hysen is the Chief Information Officer and Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer at DHS. Eric, welcome. It's great to talk to you. What are you going for here with the AI core? What is the genesis of you wanting to bring this into being at DHS?
Well, thanks for having me, Francis. The idea here is that we have an incredible opportunity across DHS to leverage AI to transform our missions. Everything from combating fentanyl coming into the United States to taking on online child sexual abuse and exploitation and so many other areas. And we need help to do it. So we are looking to bring in 50 AI technologists into the department that are taking advantage of new flexible hiring authorities issued by the Office of Personnel Management as directed in President Biden's new executive order, and then deploy them across the department onto some of our highest priority initiatives to help turbocharge the work that we've got underway.
I note not just from the terminology you're using there like turbocharge, but that you're referring to this as a hiring sprint, I read.
Yes.
Speed is of the essence, it sounds like. Time is of the essence. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. The technology talent has always been in high demand. AI talent is even more so. And so we have a great partnership with our Chief Human Capital Officer, Roland Edwards, and our teams across the department to move faster than DHS ever has in hiring to be able to evaluate and bring on necessary talent quickly.
What do those hiring authorities from OPM let you do, and how are you going to leverage that inside the department?
Sure. OPM issued a new direct hire authority for AI technologists. Looks very similar to what we've had for cybersecurity experts for a little while. So that's been an important first step. What's been equally important, though, is our internal process engineering work to make sure that we're able to fully leverage those authorities, move people through from application to subject matter expert review into an interview and offer in a matter of days to weeks rather than months as it can normally take.
Is that internal process change maybe the most difficult part of trying to get this into place and get these people into place?
It always is in government, but we've got really great partners across the department that are committed to the work and really strong direction from the top, from Secretary Mayorkas on down, that this is something we have to get right.
I note that you and Secretary Mayorkas started in Mountain View, California to look for this talent. Where else will you go, and how will you identify the people that are going to be the right fit for what you want to do?
Well, it's a nationwide effort. The Secretary and I were out in California a couple of weeks ago to launch this surge, which has been an extension of his real commitment to this work over the past year plus. We are looking, though, all around the country. We're committed to building strong relationships with communities from all parts of the nation. We know that this is talent that can reside anywhere in the U.S., and we're eager to find them.
What makes for a good AI talent? What skill set does that person have to bring to the department to fit into what the mission is that you want these people to do?
It's a really good question, because you hear AI expert and your brain first jumps to, we need data scientists, machine learning engineers, people that are really at the cutting edge of the computer science here. And we do need those, we have a few, but even more important for us are technologists who can understand the latest technology and then figure out how to apply that to our mission areas, who are the type of people that were, even before we were able to authorize it, playing around with large language models and new AI chatbots and thinking about ways that it could apply to their work. So it's that curiosity that is really one of the most important elements here.
I read, and I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, the new DHS AI core is modeled after the U.S. Digital Service. What's appealing about that model for building this model inside DHS?
Sure. Well, that's what I know. I came into government now a decade ago as one of the founding members of the U.S. Digital Service, and then I created and ran our branch at DHS at the end of the Obama administration. What we learned there was that flexibility was key, that we had a group of digital service experts that we could flexibly deploy all across the government for USDS and then all across the department as new needs arose. So we're looking here to bring in a cadre into my office at DHS headquarters and then try them out in different parts of the department rather than going through the traditional budgeting cycle of saying it might take years to figure out that we need 5 to 10 more people in this one specific office.
And you might not need those people in that specific office, in that component or whatever, forever. You might need to move them from place to place, it sounds like, so you have the flexibility to do that?
Absolutely.
What will that structurally then, this core will live in your office and you'll be able to deploy them throughout the components and throughout the agency, it sounds like, is that?
That's right, yeah. It's going to be under our Chief Technology Officer, Dave Larimore, who's been really spearheading a lot of our AI initiatives, and we will be able to move them around, assign them to different projects as we are learning what our long-term AI staffing and personnel needs look like across the department.
What does the structure of the office look like more broadly, the Chief AI Office? Because it's a relatively new office. The Defense Department has had one for a while. You were one of the ones in the civilian agencies to come along first. What does that look like in your view from a mature perspective now?
Sure. Well, first, it's not a separate office for us today, right? I'm dual-hatted as the CIO and the CAIO, and we think that's really important because I look at AI, and at DHS we look at AI not as an isolated technology that we're going to be acquiring and deploying on its own, but really as something that's going to increasingly be present in all of our IT systems, all of our software. And so we're looking to fully leverage what we have across my office as CIO and across the department. So the CTO is an incredibly important part. Equally critical is our Chief Data Officer and his counterparts in our components, because it's often said 80% of AI is having your data having good data, having it in the right place and the right structure. 20% are the algorithms and models on top of it, and so we're really investing on that core 80% as well.
How do you resist the temptation to put the cart before the horse, to take some AI and go looking for a problem to solve, instead of thinking about use cases, as every expert in and out of government tells me that's the order that it should be? Sure. Use case, AI is the potential tool to solve it rather than the reverse.
Well, I think at DHS we have no shortage of challenges and needs, and our IT organizations across the department don't have the luxury of sitting around looking at new technologies and coming up with problems for them to solve. We are responding every day to the needs of our operators from CBP, TSA, FEMA, and down the list. And so we're seeing that demand signal from our operators who are saying, here is a problem I have, here is an area I'm already thinking about using AI, let's work together, which is letting us get things done.
When someone from one of the components brings you something like that, what makes a good use case in your mind? How do you analyze what problem someone is having to decide how to try to help them solve that problem?
Sure. We're looking at a few things, particularly with generative AI, which is such a new technology, and every large enterprise from government to the private sector is figuring out where it fits, where it doesn't. It's important that we're applying the tech and piloting it in ways where we're not putting it in a mission-critical application first. Mm-hmm. We're not going to use large language models in the heart of law enforcement actions or the heart of a benefit adjudication to start. We're going to say, look at an ancillary problem like how we train our officers and can it help there, and get more comfortable with the tech, prove its value or not, and then move on. We
have less than a minute left, Eric. How will you judge whether the AI core is a success and you've done it the way you wanted to, or that you want to kind of reshape it and move forward?
Well, I'd say two areas. First, can we hit our hiring metrics? Can we build a world-class team of talent that the rest of the government and industry are jealous of, number one. And then two, are we delivering value? We're going to be looking at our metrics in terms of pounds of fentanyl that are seized and other key operational impacts across our department.
Eric Hysen, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
You can read more about the new AI Core at DHS on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, radical collaboration to drive AI success. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. Dive into the world of cybersecurity with Zero Trust In Depth, premiering Tuesday, February 27th at 8:30 p.m. on WJLA 24/7 News and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. Brought to you by Fortinet Federal and GDIT. Leaders from DHS, CISA, DOD, and the Labor Department will share progress and challenges in implementing Zero Trust across federal agencies. Zero Trust In Depth. Tuesday, February 27th at 8:30. To learn more and set a reminder to watch, go to fedgovtoday.com/indepth. Welcome back. Sea Service leaders at the West Conference in San Diego recently tell me they want to collaborate with industry to drive success in artificial intelligence. One industry leader calls what agencies should seek radical collaboration. Gaurav Pal is CEO and founder of stackArmor. Teresa Carlson is advisor and investor at General Catalyst. Friends, welcome. It's great to see both of you. GP, that term radical collaboration, what does that mean to you, and what do you think that should mean to somebody inside a federal agency?
Francis, thanks for having me. I've had the privilege of working, with my co-speaker here, Teresa, for a long time in transforming agencies through cloud. And really what helped move the needle and help these transformations start is this dramatic collaboration between the CISO, the CIO, and the programs all working together to take advantage of the same technology. And we see the same with AI. And so this technology has a potential to do so much of good, but there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty. And so what we think we can do, industry working together with government, and bringing these amazing companies to go in and get them deployed in mission critical systems and deploy them in production so that we can take the advantage of these technologies. But it will require us to all work together, and we don't have a lot of time to do it. And so that's what radical collaboration is about, breaking down those walls, breaking down those barriers, and having people work together to be able to deploy this wonderful solution.
Teresa, GP talks about speed, and we talked about that a little bit before we went on the air. Why is time of the essence here, as Eric Hysen talked about on the program just a moment ago, and as you and GP are talking about too?
Well, first of all, you can't fight gravity, and this is gravity. And these artificial intelligence applications are moving very quickly. In my experience with cloud, you don't want to wait 10 years. You want to get in there and move really quickly. You're going to have some agencies that are innovative. They're going to move. They're your early chasm, cross the chasm agencies. And then you're going to have a lot, though, that are going to wait and see what they have in terms of process and a model. And they're going to be looking for what that ATO is about. And like GP says, you cannot just get it in test and dev. You got to have these systems in the mission and ready to go. And by that radical collaboration, we believe at General Catalyst, agree with everything GP says, we see it also in terms of bringing in new talent, new types of companies into government, making sure we get government access to all those early AI capabilities so they can use it for the mission. And heaven knows we really need to do that today, probably more than ever.
That idea of an AI ATO, the ATO concept has really driven cloud. It's really driven cybersecurity. What would that look like in an AI environment, Teresa?
Well, in an AI environment, you still have to have your mechanisms and process. You have to have your controls. And I think one of the things that we just saw happen with NIST, they've come out with a framework, and it's really important. I'll go back just a minute to go forward, but I've talked about, I remember when Karen Evans did the ATO framework for the Federal Desktop Core Configuration. That was an early time. And that really worked. NIST actually put up a framework. Agencies and vendors could go and pull it down. Move forward to cloud, we had to create a new framework for FedRAMP, and we did that very nicely with both the agencies and GSA, but it took a little while to actually get that into law. Now, you saw adoption, But what they really needed was prescriptive processes for all those controls. And I think, GP, you can probably say better than I do because you do it every day with all of these vendors.
What does that look like from the vendor perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I really give a lot of credit to Teresa for being that visionary is she launched a program called ATO on AWS, and the whole idea behind it was to very, very quickly allow these organizations to get into production. So we provided them a secure sandbox, we provided them with all the security controls necessary and the documentation. And really, the ATO for AI is exactly that same construct of ATO acceleration without reinventing the wheel. And so we believe by using and applying these controls that are specific to AI systems, we already have the necessary government frameworks in place with NIST AI RMF, the new NIST AI Safety Institute Consortium, which we are privileged to be part of. And so I think we see these different pieces come together, and by basically providing this framework to get these systems into production, we can dramatically go in and help our government partners modernize.
We have less than a minute left. If I'm Eric Hysen or somebody like him at an agency, why do I want that? What will that do for me soon that not having it would prevent me from doing?
I think that's a great question. So, we read an interesting statistic. There are 2,200 companies funded by DOD and federal agencies that have ready-to-go production systems, and I think we can do a lot of good for protecting our country, both here and internationally. And if we go in and take a lot of time to deploy this goodness, as I would call it, we would do ourselves a disservice. So if Eric in his mission would like to have this new capability very quickly go in and help make our nation more secure, I think this ATO for AI capability gives him the tools to be able to do so.
GP and Teresa, thanks very much for joining me. It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you, Francis, for having us.
You can read more about collaboration for AI on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, AI today and tomorrow at the Energy Department. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. Dive into the world of cybersecurity with Zero Trust In Depth, premiering Tuesday, February 27th at 8:30 p.m. on WJLA 24/7 News and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. Brought to you by Fortinet Federal and GDIT. Leaders from DHS, CISA, DOD, and the Labor Department will share progress and challenges in implementing Zero Trust across federal agencies. Zero Trust In Depth. Tuesday, February 27th at 8:30. To learn more and set a reminder to watch, go to fedgovtoday.com/indepth. Welcome back. A working group of more than 100 people from across the Department of Energy is planning the future of generative artificial intelligence at the agency. Energy CIO Ann Duncan told you about it on FedGov Today recently. She says the department's creating a test area called the Discovery Zone to explore AI use cases. Bridget Carper is Deputy Chief Information Officer for Architecture, Engineering, Technology, and Innovation at Energy. Bridget, welcome. It's great to see you. What's the discovery? What do you want to discover in the Discovery Zone?
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Part of it is the combination of what is out there, what we should do at Energy, and how we should do it the most efficiently way. And so our Discovery Zone is not technology specific. It's across any of our labs, any of department elements, and different ways of how we can do and support our mission quickly.
You talk about the labs and the elements of the department. I think one of the structural things that's always interested me about Energy is you have so much interaction on an ongoing basis with organizations that are not Department of Energy organizations, the labs and so on. What does that look like in a consultory collaborative situation like the AI collaboration that I talked about at the beginning?
It's definitely unique, that federated model, but the interesting part is that everyone is looking to support Department of Energy, whether it's the Power Marketing Administration, the 17 national labs that you mentioned, or our headquarter department elements. Everyone is looking for ways to do things creatively and better. better. And so when you mentioned that Ann talked about our working group, our Tiger team that started last year, it was a matter of timing. So everyone was trying to give us ideas, and if they weren't able to make the meetings, they sent a collaborator or they set up ad hoc meetings to make sure that their voice was heard, but also to give feedback so we can put out the best product for the agency.
When you started that process, what did you want to get out of it, and how did what you got out of it match up with what you thought you would get at the beginning?
It actually surprised what we initially thought. Our initial piece was we're not going to create policy. We wanted to come up with a reference guide that covered each of the elements that we were working on in different examples. And as we worked, we realized that there was a lot of groups that were doing the similar things, but then also differently. And so it was just a sharing collaborative effort. And so we did version 1 last year by September, but we knew the executive order and OMB memo was coming out. So version 2 is through our government clearance process now, and it literally has done different groups where they're like, hey, let's continue this, let's discuss this next level. They're giving us different ideas, and so it's not more of a dictating of a policy, but like a collaborative effort of how we can make the most out of it so then everyone's using the same guardrails. How
do you determine the overall success of an effort like that? Is it just the deliverables that and how that syncs up, as you just described, with what you thought you were going to get at the beginning? Or are there other ways that you measure that you got out of an effort like that what you wanted?
I think for this one, it was, yes, we checked the box from a compliance, but we also were able to share. And so we have like labs that are communicating with each other. We actually had a lab AI group that came in January, and the collaboration, like during lunchtime and even afterwards, it was different ideas, different labs, whether they're science or nuclear. It was just the collaborative of how we can improve and go quicker. So I think it surprised like what we were initially looking for.
What do some of the use cases for AI look like inside the Energy Department now, Bridget?
They are very vast. So we have ones that are helping like the general public get information quicker. Again, the complexity we mentioned, again, from grants is where do we start? And a lot of people don't have like an extra 20, 30 minutes to search through our different sites because it is difficult. So that's one. We also ways for clean energy or ways to protect our power grid. We know there's some bad actors out there, and so ways that we can decrease cyber attacks are able to use the large learning models to better advance what we're looking to improve and protect.
What does the connection to drive those use cases, how does that connection work with some of the labs and so on, the other organizations that are outside energy?
So we have it two ways. So one is it's coming down like the executive order of, hey, we're tasking DOE, which we take that as like an accomplishment in itself. And then we're looking at which labs can do that quicker, which have already started, because even though like AI in the last year has been the buzzword, we've had labs working on it for decades. And so it's mirroring up what they've started, what capacity they have, or it's ones where we have this idea and we're like, who can execute this the most efficiently, who has the bandwidth? And so a lot of times it's like, oh, we'll have one or two labs working together, not limit it to one, because again, that different perspective of what we can get as our outcome.
Given that you've had some organizations that have been in the AI game for a long time, is there a risk with governance now that's just being shaped, that's just being formed by various parts of the government? Is there a risk of kind of forcing that onto the work that agencies have already done? Or is what the organizations have been doing in AI for a long time flexible enough, pliable enough that you can kind of keep it within the guardrails as they're established?
I think the way we've been doing it, it is flexible enough that we do have some of the guardrails. Even our discovery zone, which is non-prod, the production instance, all are going through security, which your previous segment had mentioned. But part of it is making sure that what we bring into our network is secure. And then also our outputs, like as we're sharing with the academic community, international partners, that what we provide, we're good partners as well. And so everyone's pretty open to working together, working with our CISO to make sure that their security boundaries are similar, as well as the data. So that's part of the pieces we're looking to improve as well. And then privacy. So we from the government do have those three areas, but they're not new. So they're any application, any system. So we're looking at it as AI is the latest, but not net new and starting from a scratch.
I note the architecture title in part of your title. What does the architecture need for AI look like?
It's vast. So there's a lot of tools, and so part of our issue is to narrow down which tools are best fit for Department of Energy. And maybe it's not a one-size-fit-all. It's one of the labs could work with certain tools and then others differently. But being able to take the vast number of tools that's out there and narrowing it down to the ones that are safe, the ones that are most likely to be able to benefit us. So it has been definitely a challenge in our multi-cloud aspects of bringing in the technology and then making sure that it's ready for the federal government.
How do you evaluate those tools for all those criteria that you just described, Bridget?
So we have a vast risk assessment that we're putting together, and it's evolving because the risks that we thought of 6 months ago are different. And so part of that risk assessment is not just my office, it includes our CISO, it includes our chief data officer, it includes our chief privacy officer. Also, Anne has those hats, like she is the agency official for those, as well as the spectrum management office. So those assets that we're looking to protect, a lot of it is part of like our office. And it's just how do we balance the impact, private, positive and negatively, and looking at those risks to using resources for it.
So you talk about evolution, and that, I think, is one of the questions that people in your shoes are asking all across the government. What does the evolution, how will that continue to work, and how does one build the governance, build the architecture, and so on to accommodate whatever the evolution of artificial intelligence is, especially when we think about the way generative AI has developed over the last, year or two. How are you thinking about that at Energy? How are you thinking about building whatever you're building in a way that allows you to be flexible and movable a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now?
Part of it is the scalability. We're looking, if we take on a use case, not that it's only going to solve one problem, but how we can expand it, how a different department element or different labs could use it, and making sure any investments that we bring into, like the architecture you mentioned, is something that's sustainable. It's not just, okay, this group did this and it works, but how we could leverage it in more than one way, because we don't want to have like multiple areas where 2 years from now, we're like, okay, these are obsolete. And a lot of our partners, the technical community, they're working of ways, they're looking 6 months from now, and they're looking, okay, we're gonna add this new tool or this new way to do it. And luckily for us, we do have some partners from a commercial side that are able to test some of those tools to see the suitability for us.
Bridget, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
You can read more about AI at the Energy Department on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in just a moment. Dive into the world of cybersecurity with Zero Trust In Depth, premiering Tuesday, February 27th at 8:30 p.m. on WJLA 24/7 News and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. Brought to you by Fortinet Federal and GDIT. Leaders from DHS, CISA, DOD, and the Labor Department will share progress and challenges in implementing Zero Trust across federal agencies. Zero Trust In Depth. Tuesday, February 27th at 8:30. To learn more and set a reminder to watch, go to fedgovtoday.com/indepth. Welcome back. In today's event spotlight, the AI for Government Summit is coming May 2nd from noon to 6 at the Karasoff Conference and Collaboration Center in Reston. Government leaders from civilian and defense agencies will cover what they're doing with AI now and the use cases they're exploring for the future. You can read more about the event and register for it at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10:30 with the new chair of the Federal Chief Data Officers Council, Kirsten Dalbo, and the Deputy Commandant of the Marine Corps for Information, Lieutenant General Michael Glavey. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you next Sunday. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.